Okay, yesterday we learned about complex numbers. And is I a complex number? Yeah. Is 5 plus I a complex number? Yes. Just a second, I got to write in something that you can see. Red. Is just the number 5 a complex number? Yes. Remember, complex number is everything you can think of. Why is 5 complex? Because I could say 5 plus 0i. So every number you can think of, whether it's real or imaginary, is a complex number. All right, so how about the number 17? Is it prime? The number 17. 17 is prime. By the way, do you guys know what the opposite of prime would be? Composite. Very good. There's either prime or composite. All right, composite are the things that have more than 2 factors. Prime has 2 factors. How about negative 2? Is negative 2 a prime number?
Yes. No.
But think about how many factors it has. I'm going to give you a hint. How do you make a negative 2? With what times what? Could you go 2 times negative 1? Could you also do negative 2 times positive 1? So there's actually more than 2 factors. So negative 2 is not prime. How about rational? This says rational, and it's just trying to make a joke, I know, but I is not a rational number. Okay. Is pi a rational number? All right. Rational numbers can be written as a fraction. All right. And then there's one more set of numbers that a lot of people don't know. And I'm going to put dots at the beginning of both of these. That's called the integers. A lot of people, when they are asked to describe it, they're like, well, they're whole numbers. Technically not. These are whole numbers. Whole numbers start with 0. And that means no negative number is a whole number. Negative 6, not whole number. Whole numbers start at 0. And then what's the last group? Anybody remember this one? Starts with 1, as in 0 is not in the club. 1, 2, 3, and it keeps going forever. Those are called naturals. You might just think, oh, this is interesting little math trivia. No, this is actually stuff that's on the ACT. They'll say, let n be a natural number. And you'd have to be like, well, I don't know what that means, but I guess it's a number. Well, a natural number is like a positive number not including 0. What if they said, let n be a whole number? Well, then n can be 0. What if they said, let n be a integer? Well, then that's this group. It could be any of those things. But it couldn't be something like 1.6. What if they said, let n be a rational? Rationals can be written as a fraction, so 1.6? Yeah, that's rational. How about pi? Is pi a member of this list? Definitely not. Pi is not a integer. Because pi is a decimal. In fact, it's even a weird decimal. It's the kind of decimal that can't be written as a fraction. Hint. So it's not rational. It's called what? Irrational. All right. So that's the essence of this joke is this guy is saying get real because that's not a real number. It's an imaginary number. Be rational. That guy's not rational because you can't write pi as a fraction. All right. So now is your final test on that. You ready? The number 1. Name every number group that it belongs to. Like, is it rational? Is it irrational? Is it real? Is it imaginary? Is it complex? Is it a natural number? Is it a whole number? Is it a prime? Is it a composite? That's like your number bank or your word bank. Write down everything you can think of that 1 is. I'll pause for a second while you give that a try. Okay, you should have said that it is rational. Why? Because it can be written as a fraction. Real Why? Because it's not imaginary. It doesn't have an I. All right. How about complex? Why? Because every number you can think of is complex. Or you could argue it this way. I could say plus 0i, and that way it's got both real and imaginary parts. Okay. It's also not prime. A lot of people think it is prime. 1 only has one factor. 1 and itself, which is not two things. So I know this seems weird, but you can look it up on the list of prime numbers. Although I've seen movies make that mistake before. Must be embarrassing to be like the person in charge of that movie science part. Like, they usually have an advisor that makes sure they don't screw up like math or whatever. It's a small thing, but 1 is not prime. All right. How about, what's another thing that it is? Ooh, what's that one of those new words that you may not have learned before? How about this? Any other word you can think of that I said in the last 5 minutes?
Natural.
Natural. Anything else?
Integer.
Integer. Whole. Those are all the things that 1 fits into. Okay? Now, from what I've seen, they don't usually ask you that question on the ACT. Instead, they might more likely ask you, given that a number is rational, and then you have to go, well, okay, so what do you mean by that? You mean it can be written as a fraction. Or given that the number is a natural number, well, that means it can't be 0 and it can't be negative numbers, so it must be a positive number. So when they say natural, you got to know that, oh, that means positive whole numbers that are bigger than 0. Okay, I think you get the idea. So what are we doing today? Basically, all we have to do is add, subtract, and multiply complex numbers. And we started that yesterday. We kind of pre-taught that. If I had to add these together, it's not even as hard as, like the multiply, you'd have to distribute and stuff, right? Well, you don't have to. You just have to find the like terms. 5 goes to the 2, makes 7. What's 3i and negative 5i make? Minus 2i, and that's it. Those are almost insultingly easy. All right. Now, how about the one to the right of it? What's a little more complicated there? It's just distributing. Do you get a lot of kids say that's a negative 3, but they think it's a positive 4i? They don't see how, ooh, that's right, this distributes to here. So it's a negative 4i and a negative I makes a total of negative 5i. Okay. How about this one? We just have to multiply it out. It's just like yesterday, except easier. Yesterday I was doing the kind where you have to FOIL them out. This has just got 2 parts to the answer. I'll pause for a second while you give this one a try. Okay. Hopefully you said the negative 3i times the 4 makes negative 12i. And the negative 3i and the negative 3i makes positive 9i squared. Who remembered from yesterday that I squared was negative 1? Raise your hand if you had a short-term memory. Awesome. Then that makes that negative 9 minus 12i. Why did I move it around? Because you're supposed to have the real part first and imaginary at the end. It's kind of a mullet. It's business up front, party in the back. All right. You ever heard that about a mullet before? Maybe you don't even know what a mullet is. Do you guys know what a mullet is? Okay. It's like short hair up front, long hair in the back. Yes, sir.
Wouldn't the negative 9 and that minus sign be the
But that 9 isn't negative because it's a negative times a negative, which makes it a positive 9.
then the I makes it.
Yeah. Then it makes it negative 9. That's why I put a negative 9 right there in my answer. Okay. Next up, 4 times the I, 4i. I times the negative 5i, negative 5i squared. Oop, I squared. Negative 1. Since that's negative 1, it makes a positive 5. I'm rearranging them. Why? Because the real part's in front. And remember me telling you that imaginary makes it sound like I just made this up, but you can't answer electrical engineering questions. Not all of them, but some of them. You can't answer them without these imaginary numbers, so they're used in the real world. All right, this part is just got some square roots thrown in to try to make it more difficult, but I don't think it's going to stump you. If you multiply this out, it'll be x squared. You multiply that out, it'll be negative 5x. The only question will be, some of you won't know how to write this next thing. Do this last multiply with the x. And I think the main thing is you won't know where to put the x. Should I put it underneath the root? All right, here's the official right way to write that. 2 times x times I times the square root of 5. You always put the square roots last. Put the I in front of the root, because if you put it at the end, it'll look like it's under the root. Like if I see that 5i, doesn't that kind of look like it's the square root of 5i? So we put the I in the front. Okay. We did these yesterday, although I never did one like the one on the left, and it would allow people to get trapped. Do you get that if a kid thinks, oh, it's 2 squared and negative 3i squared, they're falling into a trap. It's really 2 minus 3i times 2 minus 3i. Four minus 6i minus 6i, put it all together, plus 9i squared. And it'd be really tempting to just leave it that way. But no, I squared is negative 1. Make that negative 9. Put that with the 4. What's negative 9 with the 4? Negative 5 minus 12i. Raise your hand if you had that one. Okay, awesome. I think that's enough. So we have a worksheet, and we are going to be doing a worksheet on, well, it's got a whole bunch of questions, and at the bottom it's got this little like blanks. So if I have you skip any, it's going to just mess that up. So let's just do the whole thing, and I had quite a few kids finish before the end of the hour, so this shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so just work on this, and I encourage you, if you want to work with a buddy at this point, be totally okay. And that's all I have for you for today. So how many of you are taking the PSAT or the practice PSAT tomorrow? Oh, it's only a few of you. All right. So most of you guys are going to have kind of a normal-ish day, although it's going to be weird. Like the time schedule, it's weird. I've got a copy of it here, but it's not. It's a regular day. You'll go to all your classes, but the hours are different. There's no sale time, true. And there's no math time. So how about this? I'll tell you the times that things end on this day compared to a normal day. How about that? Okay, first hour normally ends on a normal day at 8:55. This ends at 9:09. So first hour is definitely longer than normal. second hour ends at 10:24, where second hour would normally end at 10:01. And just for perspective, also second hour a little longer than normal. Third hour normally ends at 11:08. Our third hour is going to end at 11:39. So by this point in the day, your first 3 hours have been a total of a half an hour longer than normal. So hours 1, 2, and 3 get stretched out. Why do you think that is? Because the PSAT. That way the PSAT kids can come back in fourth hour and just be back to class like normal. Know what I mean? All right. Although from my experience, they're usually pretty exhausted because they've been testing for 3 hours straight. So they're, Okay. And then the next class, it all depends on when you'd have lunch, right? But the next class, fourth hour, is a 45-minute class. So fourth hour is a short class. Because they now have to make up for the fact the other classes were longer, right? So the last 3 classes, fourth, fifth, sixth, have to all be shorter. Fifth hour, again, a 45-minute class. And sixth hour, a 50-minute class, just slightly longer than the others. So the 2 shortest hours of the day are fourth and fifth. Lunchtimes are still pretty much exactly a half hour long. Now, I know you guys all have a telephone that you can use to take pictures. If you want to take a picture of this thing with your phone so you have the schedule for tomorrow dialed in, I will hand it around. I'm going to take a picture of it. Because this all sounds good, but I'm never going to remember it tomorrow, so I'll just make a picture quick. So I made mine my lock screen on my phone. That way it's easy for me to find. It is the easiest thing to find, right? You just open up your phone even before it opens, it's there. You don't need to be that worried about time. Teachers do, of course. Take a picture if you want, pass it on. If you don't want, it's totally okay. It won't make me feel bad. Just want to give people the option.
Because when you happens in
If you are stuck on anything, ask. Seen lots of people that are already done, which is fantastic. So that's. You done? There's not, because I want to read it in class, and then we'll drop it. Then we- okay, hold on. Yeah, on the Dropbox thing, whenever there's not a Dropbox, it means that I want to grade it first, and then we'll Dropbox. Okay, so don't stress if there's no Dropbox. I can't possibly say it's your fault if there's no Dropbox. You didn't Dropbox it, well, you couldn't because there was no Dropbox. Right, it's 12 minutes, that's a 12-minute one. I know it's weird, you have too much time today. But I wasn't gonna like make up stuff you have to do. No.